Out of all the sports teams that exist, certain countries have a big one or two, but we're proud to say our podcast is about the biggest team in the entire world.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! This is the World's Team Podcast. All about the world's team, the Dallas Cowboys, baby. We're here to redefine what it means to be a fan of the gridiron game. It's not just America's team anymore. Nope. We're taking that star-studded pride and spreading it across the globe. Each week, we dive into all things Cowboys. From game analysis that'll have you on the edge of your seat, to reactions and all the latest news. Whether it's free agency frenzy, draft day drama, or injury reports that make us want to hug our lucky jerseys a little tighter. We're bringing in fan groups from all over the place, from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. Everybody gets to share their 2 cents on America's favorite team.
Here we go!
America's team, Mexico's team, world's team, my Dallas Cowboys.
And now your hosts, Paul Stewart and Mike Poland.
Hello, Cowboys Nation. Welcome to the world's team. Remember, it's not just America's team, it is the world's team. And yes, finally, it's the end of the season. We can long live this nightmare, get rid of this nightmare and focus on next year. But before we move into that, I am joined, as always, my brother in arms, Mr. Mike Poland. How are we doing, bro?
Yeah, all good, man, all good. Yeah, like you say, we did as well in the week. We did the Fan Rant show, which is always a very popular
on
show.
UK Cowboys fans, yeah.
Yeah. So that's like the big exhale. You know, it's the big heel. And now we can move on. I mean, obviously, we've got this to do with the World's team. And then we can move forward into better and brighter days, mate.
Hopefully. I hope that's the case. But yeah, just to outline what we're going to be talking about the show, we're obviously going to kind of give our thoughts and opinions about the Commanders game in general and our overall season review. How do we grade the coaches? What do we need to do going forward? And kind of give our views on the upcoming playoff games and give our final thoughts. But yeah, it's sad that we're not going to be talking about any playoffs and stuff like that, obviously, but I think based on the state of how our football team is at this moment, I'm just glad this season's over. I really am, Mike. I really am.
Yeah, it has been. It's been an emotional roller coaster this week. This season. That's sure to say. You know, and it was an emotional roller coaster, like in just games itself, let alone the entire season. You know, we kind of like had an entire season sometimes in some games where, you know, you lose players, we're up, then we're down. A player then goes out and you find out then he's not coming back, and you're looking at it going, that's his season done. You're getting that in an entire season, just one game. Yeah. It's been wild, but you know, it's funny because, you know, like me, you yourself and myself, we do like all these little shows and everything in various little spots and places, and you know, you just kind of see the togetherness. You know, like you laugh and you cry with all these people, and that's something you can't take away from the season.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, like I said though, Mike, I said this since I came back from Dallas for the Houston Texans game. Never in my life, me going to Cowboys games for all these years, spending thousands of pounds, British pounds, our currency back here in the UK, going over there just to see my Dallas Cowboys, and literally it's the first time ever I've actually left the game early because I was just so annoyed. I was so peed off about it, how we were performing. It's just not what I expect from a team that expects to be all in, per se. All the media, from Jerry, from Steven, saying, oh yeah, we're happy with our team, etc. we're doing this and doing that, then obviously, like, don't get me wrong, factors of injuries and stuff like that do take into account. I get that, but don't lie to the fans to say that we have the adequate personnel to make things still work when our starters, and there's clearly a massive gap between starters and backups. Don't get me wrong, some backups really did step up, like Josh Butler, even though he was there for 2 games. Right? And then obviously, unfortunately, he got injured. But and obviously we brought in Carl Overshawn as well, but we brought in likes like Carl Lawson, who I thought was fantastic for us. I would love to bring him back into the fold. So, but yeah, it's just been incredibly frustrating. But before I run on too much, Mike, give me your overall thoughts about the Washington Commandos game.
I mean, for me, like the game pretty much went the way we was kind of expecting. Down roster guys rotating in. You see guys like they take Tyler Guyton out. Various reasons why, you see all of these sort of things happening. You kind of go, yeah, all right. It was a game really not to nothing, because as we talked on this show last week, it was a game to find out who these guys are. Trey Lance, I
thought Lance did okay to a certain point, but it still did not impress me enough to like for what we traded for him, for the whole speculation, this is going to be the guy, all that type, like all the early talks, all the early rumors before Dak Prescott got his contract done, all of that. It's just infuriating as a fan to say this is what we traded for. It's like, and
to me, when go on. Sorry to interrupt you.
Like, I have nothing against Trey Lance. I really don't.
No.
It's unfortunate for him, but there's many things I have a problem with that whole trade. One, it was a 4th rounder where we could have got ourselves a more equipped running back in this game to help establish or do the more effective run game. That's one. 2 is the inexperience of Trey Lance to justify that. I mean, it was unjustified, the fact that he went in the first round in the first place by San Francisco. That to me is still the head scratcher, to me. So I don't know what San Francisco was thinking going for him in that draft.
They bought the hype.
Well, I guess you need to learn, but it's just incredibly frustrating. And also, you would expect from the fact that he's been under the wing with Dak and having that time, he might have evolved under a different system. He might have evolved. We've not really heard much from inside Cowboys media, how much he's improved, all that. He's just the exact same from what we expected. So I don't get I just don't like the idea. I'm getting myself really annoyed about it. I'm really am. But to me, Lance is not going to be a Cowboy anymore. That's my opinion. If I'm being honest, Mike, and we will talk about draft needs and stuff like that. I think we will have to draft a backup quarterback at some point in this year's draft. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, undrafted free agent, if you just come for a backup. It depends how far they want to prioritize these things. I mean, you never know where you strike gold. I mean, look what happened with Dak. Dak was supposed to be the backup to the backup. So these things can happen. But to me, when I look at Trey Lance, people keep on or kept on last week making comments about how they feel about the game. It's very, very simple for me what you saw.
It's predictable.
But what I saw is basically what I put on a tweet that got shared around. I was like, what you saw on the red zone play where he failed to hit Rico Dowdle in the end zone. That's a perfect play. I was like, that's a quarterback 3 play. You're seeing a guy manage to use his elusivity, use his athleticism to escape the pressure, to move around and extend the play. But then when it came to the final piece of the chapter, which was deliver the ball, it came up short. That's a quarterback 3. That's your QB 3 there.
See, well, And right, so here's where I'm going to defend Trey Lance, right? I think his first drive was actually really impressive, I thought.
There
We
was
were moving
impressive
the
parts to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but whenever we got to the red zone, and this is a consistent problem with the Dallas Cowboys, we are the worst team in the NFL when it comes to putting points on the board whenever we're in the red zone within 20 yards of the end zone. So it's incredible, whether it's Dak or it's Cooper Rush, Andre Lance, it's the same issue. So it kind of goes back to the whole scenario. It's like, do we need to make drastic changes to this football team to kind of, or whether it's coaching, personnel, style, the style of offense, scheme, like something needs to change if we're going to make leaps forward. That's my personal opinion, Mike.
Yeah, I like, you need to be smarter when you get into the red zone because, like, obviously, it's all about movement and creating mismatches once you get down there because obviously the field is shorter, the box is tighter, you kind of become a little bit more predictable. So it's about at that stage imposing your will on the defense, and they just weren't able to do that, this season. So yeah, that there are changes that need to happen. I got a question in the mailbag which was quite relevant to this, and it was and I may as well ask you this because you probably got the same answer as me. So Mike McCarthy, it was a theoretical question. Mike McCarthy comes back as head coach. Is there anybody on this offensive side in terms of the coaches there that you would get rid of? And I was like, oh yeah.
Oh, 100%. I would get rid of Solari first and foremost.
That was the same answer I had.
Right. So for a coach who's been an NFL coach for over 40 years, purely supposed to be an offensive line coach, we haven't evolved since when we had Joe Philbin. We've actually regressed, I think, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, don't get me wrong, like there has been standards. Like Tyler Smith has probably been our best offensive lineman this year, along with Cooper Beebe, a very unexperienced player playing at center who was primarily a guard back at Kansas State College. Yeah. So, and the likes of Terrence Steele, still massive question marks on him. Zach Martin definitely had a down year. We know that. And there's a lot of talk, a lot of rumors he could be possibly retiring from the NFL now because obviously things are starting to catch up on him. And I wouldn't be mad if Zach Martin would decide to lace up the boots and call it an end, because he's been an absolute rock for the Dallas Cowboys and he deserves all the praise for what he's done over the course of 11 seasons, essentially, when we drafted him back in, was it 2014? Yeah, the same year as Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
So, and obviously you've got Tyler Guyton, had some good moments, had some really bad moments, and there's he just hasn't hit the ground running. Hopefully, year 2 things might change.
There you go.
Whether he plays at the left or he might play in the right, depending what we do in the off season. We might trade away players, we might bring some other players in. Who knows? But these are the questions we need to ask as fans, because we do have general absolute concerns about this football team, and all of it does root back to Jerry and the front office. End of the day, because they're the ones that's operating this football team.
Yeah, no, absolutely correct. I mean, to be honest with you, I've got nothing else to add to that because I just agree in every aspect.
I'm trying to hit the nail on the coffin every single time here today, Mike. I really am.
Yeah. But I mean, there's nothing I can add to that. All I'd be doing is just agreeing with you.
Yeah,
in all aspects,
Yeah, well, for our viewers, please let us know in the comments, and also hit the subscribe button here at the World's Team. Let us know what you think is the main root cause of the Dallas Cowboys. Do you think it's actually the coaching? Do you think it's Jerry? Do you think it could be certain players that just don't fit the scheme? We would love to hear your input, so please feel free to add your comments here on our YouTube section on this video. Thank you. But yeah, Mike, I mean, let's try and dissect this Dallas Cowboys football team right now, how would you give this Dallas Cowboys 2024 season the overall grade? Just as not the team, not the coaches, just the overall season as a grade.
Okay. So, do we take into account the off season and everything
Yes,
with the moves?
everything,
Okay.
literally
The whole shebang.
the
Draft,
whole
off-season.
off season, draft, preseason, post and regular season, and all the antics, literally everything.
C. Just a C across. Mostly that. What brings it down? Injuries is the big one. And then how Jerry basically hamstrung this team with the lack of moves in the offseason. That you go Eric Hendricks and you got Carl Lawson. Okay, that was, you got, yeah. And that was it. And you go draft. I mean, obviously, you mentioned about Guyton. BB's a plus. Neeland, you're kind of waiting for.
Liafo
was fantastic down the stretch. Really impressive. He should give you hope for the future. And like you see things like Cavonte Turpin breaking out, Rico Dowdle coming along. You see a number. You see what the defensive backs were trying to do throughout the season, trying to keep things together. Micah Parsons, you can't dismiss those factors, which raises the great backup from what it could have been. Obviously, if we ended up in this state and Jerry had made all the moves, I mean, this would be a straight F. Do you know what I mean? And we didn't have the injuries. We'd be in serious trouble here. But you have to take into account those, which is kind of raises, the bar back up.
Yeah, no. See, I'm almost on par with you in terms of the grading, but everything that you've pointed out to your decision, I totally agree with. But my overall grade, I'm giving it a C minus. A C minus. Like, not from a straightforward C, but a C minus, because there's been more negatives than positives this year. That's the main reason, really. Like, I'm being very general about it. Like, lack of off-season acquisitions,
Jerry's comments.
Like basically Jerry I wouldn't use the word jeopardize. I wouldn't say that. I don't think Jerry would try and jeopardize his own football team. I think that would be stupid to say. But he did not help Mike McCarthy in any way, shape, or form. Did not help Mike Zimmer any way, shape, or form. Didn't bring him in early enough to get in grips to help build the football team for the defense. And we actually did get to see some positive outlook of what a summer defense would look like at the later part of the season when players were starting to finally click, So from that perspective, and also and when it comes to the media talks from Jerry, the whole all-in speech, Jerry can say it's like, oh, it's not what I meant or whatever. Not this is, well, you're talking to the fans. Fans will interpret it as they see fit. So be clear exactly what you're trying to say, rather than be that's the problem.
It's true.
And just me in general, over the course of the years, how we've dealt with trades. That to me is an issue. We traded away, obviously we talked about Trey Lance for a 4th round draft pick. Then we traded away another 4th round for Jonathan Mingo. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure Mingo might come up more promising than Trey Lance, but we could have got a really good, decent wide receiver maybe in the draft and get him a more longer term contract and cheaper as well. So I'm just like, what the hell? So it's incredibly frustrating, and not just that. I know people might argue, and I know when we were on the UK Cowboys fans, Lauren did make a good point where on season, off season, where it comes to trades and stuff like that. But what doesn't help the Cowboys, and this happened to Lyle Collins and Amari Cooper in particular, is we basically given golden beans and received pennies back, essentially. Because we announced that we were looking for a trade or this player was getting released. If that's the case, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Do not give any teams the advantage to basically fleece you for a really good player, and all you receive is very next to nothing in return. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is wild. It just it's a tricky one because it's like you said, Lorne made a very good point about you know that you do have to pay more in the season in order to get these trades completed. So it's just the way it goes.
And not just that, just contracts in general. That's an issue as well. Leaving contracts to the very last minute.
Yeah,
Like,
that is the biggest problem.
yeah.
And me and you have spoken about this before.
Well, think
where,
about it. Let's really break it down, mate.
Yeah.
Over the course of, I would say, 6 seasons, right? There was
Yeah.
Zach Martin's contract, who
True.
held out. DeMarcus Lawrence held out. Dak Prescott's contract twice,
right? And a franchise tag.
And a franchise tag. Then there was what's his name? Dalton Schultz for the franchise tag.
Yeah.
Right? There was him. Then there was obviously Ezekiel Elliott, who held out.
Tank.
I already mentioned Tank.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. And finally, CD Lamb.
Yeah. I would say they got the Jordan Lewis contract right. I will say that.
Yes.
They landed on that one. And LVE, if you remember all those years ago.
Yeah, that one worked out to our favor. Like, I think it was more the fact that other teams were not willing to take the risk because of the net concerns more than anything. But whereas we had the more in-depth history and medical records of Leighton Van Der Esch, so it was more comfortable for us to bring him back regardless. But for other teams, that would scare them. And totally understand that. So it kind of like left LVE in no position to go to another team. So he was kind of forced to stay with the Cowboys in some respect. So that's how I kind of see that. So I wouldn't say it wasn't really fortunate for us to do that, but it was just more like it was just basically the options that LVE had. He had no choice but to come back, really.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but it's been the thing that really, really it grinds my gears. It's the thing that grinds me the most. It is the thing that grinds me the most. That they sit for so long, like they're overly patient to the point where now players are like, right, okay, you don't want to do a deal this early, right? Let me we'll just raise the price tag then. And each time you wait another year, that price tag goes up, and it makes no sense. And this is going to be coming. We're waiting for it, Paul, because it is coming next season with Micah Parsons. That will be the talk that dominates the Dallas Cowboys, because they won't do the necessary work to get Micah signed to a long-term deal early. It's going to be, and it's going to be every week. Do you think he's done enough to earn a long-term contract? Does that performance, and then there'll be bad performances, and you're like, do you think that's affected his long-term deal? You're going to get it non-stop next season.
I know, I get that. But I think what kind of helps Jerry and Steven, they have actually been given a golden goose from Micah Parsons in some aspect, because he made the comment saying he is willing to work with the Cowboys because he wants to be a Dallas Cowboys player for his whole career. He did say that. So that means he's willing to kind of like, if it's in order to bring other players in, he's willing to, like what Tom Brady has done for his whole career. Like, I want Randy Moss on my team. I want Antonio Brown on my team. I want this guy and this guy. Whatever it takes, I will lower my wage because I need these players on my team in order of us to win Super Bowls. That's the one thing I've actually really appreciate what Micah just said, and when he was doing that interview a couple of weeks ago. So I think that works in Jerry and Steven, and also in the agent, to really might potentially come up with a deal early in that aspect. So, Chris, he says he's not looking to be the highest paid, essentially. Like, it would be nice to be the highest paid, but he's not looking to it because obviously he's thinking about the team first.
Yeah. I'm with you there, mate. 100%.
Yeah. So, but let's take a more dive into this grading right now. So I've went with a C minus, and you went with a C. Just overall, how would you grade the front office?
F. Sorry, it's an F.
Yeah.
Straight up. There's no point. Statements Jerry made, the lack of free agent moves in the off season, another 4th round trade for a player that's questionable. Like the whole thing, Jerry and Stephen really
it stunk. It stinks.
Really
it stinks to the high heavens, Mike. I think this is definitely the grade I will definitely give the full-on F.
F.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Yeah, 100%.
There's nothing more you can say, really. I mean, look, the only way it's not like worse than an F.
Like, if Jerry wants his props for stuff that he's done well, he signed Eric Kendricks. That's a plus. He signed Carl Lawson. That's a plus. But you've done more wrongs than good.
Yeah. You harmed the team more than you helped it. Like the only reason this isn't worse than an F is because, like the likes of, me and you have been there, is you go to the Stan Frisco. Jerry, he put that up. And you go, this is an impressive building. But that doesn't, that helps in it.
It doesn't translate to us winning football games
this season.
And for him to go on Netflix is like, it's all about the show. It's not like it's keeping the Cowboy. Like, I can't remember the exact quote Jerry said in his 3 lines for that Netflix trailer, but basically, keeping the Cowboys relevant is more important than winning. Essentially, I mean, who says that? Who says that? It's
even
insane.
If you're thinking it, even if you're thinking
insane.
it, yeah.
Like, what other GM in the NFL today thinks
would still be around?
Yeah, and it goes back to my point. If Jerry Jones were 2 separate people, you had the owner, Jerry Jones, and you had the GM, Jerry Jones. There is no way, shape, or form that the owner would accept the progression or the work, the effort that the GM has done. He would be sacked in a heartbeat.
Oh God, yeah. You think you go back to. You could go all the way back to when, like, we had Drew as quarterback before Romo's time, and you look at like how bad things were then. You'd be like, right, you're done. You're gone now. You're gone at this stage. So you're talking early 2000s.
Yeah. See what? If there's going to be something that I would love to change, we need to be more ruthless in decision making when it comes to people feeding into the ears. I don't know how much I'm reading into this, to be honest. I could be making this hell up, but whoever who is feeding to Will McClay, feeding to Jerry Jones and Steven about this and doing that, I think that needs to be reevaluated again. We need to have more clear decision making about who we're looking at, what type of things we're trying to do to help prove this football team. Because I don't think we're being we're being way too conservative in terms of what we're doing. We're not being as cutthroat, if I'm being honest. Because let's be honest, the more I know this is going to sound very harsh, but the more cutthroat that you are, it's going to put more people on edge to deliver a good job, to keep their job on the line.
Yeah,
and we're not seeing that.
When you think like how comfortable some of these coaches and staff are, they know that they haven't been fired for a while. They're like, all right, if I don't deliver, I'll be back next year. And that kind of is like the feeling, not all the coaches, but like some of them and the staff, they've got that level of, and you just kind of like, no, you need to deliver or you're gone.
Yeah.
Be ruthless, like you say.
Yep. What's the term in the wrestling? Ruthless aggression.
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's what we need. We need a little bit of WWE ruthless aggression.
Yeah. Oh God. What time was that? Was that like about 2:00 this morning? Me and you were talking about that.
Probably. I mean, I'll be honest. I only watched a little bit of it, to be honest. But yeah,
I've got no choice. I've got like an 8-year-old kid who's into it. So,
hey, what a time to be alive, eh? Getting the
I
kids
know.
like
Yeah.
that. But anyway, moving back onto the subject. So it's a big F for the front office.
Yeah.
Like again, like don't get me wrong, Jerry has done amazing things to build the empire that he has built. He has. Fantastic.
True.
Like,
but we're giving it for this season.
This season, right? He's built a great stadium, but in terms of decision making for some of the games, like not even putting the curtains down, that's questionable. That's definitely. But if you can do that for the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, then you deserve the criticism. You deserve it. I'm sorry. Like, as fans, we're like, our players cannot play with the lights gleaming into their visors and their eyes, and you're wondering why players can't make the plays because they can't see because of the reflective light coming from the sun going into the stadium. It's insane. But
it cost CeeDee Lamb a touchdown.
Exactly. It cost CeeDee Lamb one touchdown, which could have actually changed the whole scope of the game. It could have. But we did it for Jake Paul and Mike Tyson for a mediocre boxing fight, which was an absolute trash fest. I'm sorry, but
no,
anyway,
you're right there.
It was. It's just it's insanity, and don't get me wrong. Like I said, like I'll give Jerry and Steven their props when something's actually done. But it's like you said, Mike. It's like there's been so many wrongs this season. Like we can and very very positives to give you any praise at all.
If you was to put it on the scale is all the way to the bottom. And the Carricks and the Lawson thing barely.
It should be this way instead of this way.
Yeah, or at least some sort of balance, but it's not. It's all the way.
Yeah.
When you pile away onto all of this side of the scale, and then you go, oh, but Eric Kendricks, or Carl Lawson, and then you go, oh, the NFL, the draft, these players were good. And you go, okay, it doesn't.
I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't, but that's not really Jerry. That was more McClay and the scouting team. Let's be honest, they feed that back.
Yeah.
I would say it's more than them because they're the one that are actually checking these players out. You're not seeing Jerry going on different campuses across the country looking at players. He doesn't do that. That's Will McClay's job. Like, don't get me wrong. Will McClay's had a tough couple of years, especially with last year's draft with Mazzy and Shoemaker and etc. So and like
although Scooney's came in a bit.
Scooney is getting there slowly but surely. Like I would like to get him.
Schultz didn't come on straight away, mate.
That's right. That's true. But for a second round draft pick, though, Mike, you would expect more of an impact. You would.
I know.
Like,
I know.
You know, so and I think this is where as Cowboys fans are getting a bit annoyed because we have this high expectation, and I think it's the same with any other teams. If you're like a first, second, or third round pick, you expect to be a starter in some capacity, where like or contribute to the team as part of the 53-man roster actively at some capacity. Like Mazzy really struggled rookie season. He had some glimpses in the Giants game and some other games, but is it still enough to justify that being worthy of a first-round draft pick? And to me, as of right now, and I know you keep saying the third year is always the most important.
Next year is when I'm going to evaluate it. Yeah.
Like, well, time will tell in that.
Yeah.
But for likes of Shoemaker, a skill position player, that should be more of an instant thing. Obviously, injuries to Shoemaker at the start really did not help. And obviously, like the drop pass against Philadelphia last year did not really help as well. But he has shown really good characteristics where he can actually help replace Jake Ferguson if he's not on the field. That is a good plus. But but when you look at how Will McClay's done drafts prior to that, we've actually struck it like rich. We've had some absolute gems in the previous years. Absolute gems, like Bland, for example. That's a gem. Like, I mean, the list can go on, but we've had some good draft years and some really bad draft years. But going back to the overall grade again, Mike, it is a big F for the overall front office. It is.
Definitely.
But yeah, Moving on to the offense, Mike. How do you grade the Dallas Cowboys offense this season?
Okay. So losing Dak Prescott, that's a big negative.
Yep.
The way that they started the season, unable to establish the run, then they had to move away from the run completely because they were always playing catch up. Yeah, so you had Dak Prescott just
It was
trying to throw
for a couple of games we were just basically gaining garbage yards, garbage statistics just to pad it a little bit.
Yeah,
It didn't tell the story. It did not tell the story of the actual game.
No. And you know, that was the failures of the defense, which we'll obviously get to. So the defense, so you get behind, or you become one-dimensional, and that's what happened. But then we saw the rise of Rico Dowdle. CeeDee Lamb had another 1,000-yard season. You saw the likes of guys like you already mentioned, Cooper Beebe. Brandon Cooks, when he came back, he looked good. He looked positive. Kevontae Turpin had his moments. The connection between Cooper Rush and Jalen Tolbert was obvious because he was
very obvious.
I mean, consecutive games scoring touchdowns towards the end of the season. You can add all of these things up, and you go, okay. But you do have to take the injuries into account. We lose CeeDee Lamb towards the end of the season, lose Dak halfway through the season, lose Zach Martin. Brandon Cooks, as I mentioned, he misses a large period of the season because he was injured. So you go, and they still managed to do this, that, and the other. And you go, okay. And, some of it was good. I would probably say based on that, it's a C+.
I agree in that sentiment. I was torn between a B- and a C+.
Yeah,
I think
that's where I was at.
I think a C+ is fair because, like you said, injuries take a massive factor into that. But it's but what made me decide to go more of a C+ rather than a B- is the play calling calls sometimes from Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, that was an issue.
Yep. So that to me is what made me bring it back down to a C+. So in that regard, and obviously there has been very questionable plays when things don't go our way, we kind of deviate and we become way too conservative and we rely on Brandon Aubrey way too much. We don't have that. Yeah. We don't have that go mentality, like really going aggressive when we should. Like, not to throw a comparison to Dan Campbell, who is super aggressive with his offense.
He's the other way.
He does not give a damn. And the thing is, it is working for Detroit. Yeah, bad start in his first year as Lions head coach, but 4 seasons later, look where they are now. They're the number 1 seed, 15-2. They've got the bye week, and they're going to play the lowest seeding team out of these playoff games over the course of this weekend. So, and that's the thing. I think that's a thing that might have to change. We need to be more aggressive in our approach. If we're going to go and predictability as well.
That was some of it, yeah.
But I will give McCarthy credit though. When things weren't going wrong with certain parts of the offense, i.e., the running game, he did make the crucial switch to make Rico Dowdle the number 1 running back. That was crucial by far.
I mean, like the best way I described it is like what we were saying the other day, Paul, is to be Mike McCarthy. He's a smart football coach, and people are going to be screaming at me for this, but just hear me out, and then we can move on.
Of course,
that he is a smart football coach, and he's not a bad play caller. Here's what he is: he is the nerdy. He's that nerd in your class, the know-it-all, right? That's in your class, who's always raising his hand, knows the answer to every question. But every now and then, he's got, for some reason, he will just
There's a glitch. There's a glitch somewhere. Yeah.
And he'll blurt out a swear word, or he'll call the teacher a name. And that is Mike McCarthy. He's the smart kid that will just say the wrong thing sometimes at the wrong time. And that is the best way to describe his coaching.
I mean, coaches do make mistakes. I get that. Like,
all of them do,
yeah. Every coach does it. Like Dan Campbell did that, for example, when he did that against us last year. at the end of the regular season last year, he went really super aggressive when he didn't need to. He didn't need to do it. He should have still capitalized and for the Lions to take the game into overtime and try and win the game from there. But no, he went for it. I think that was the bad call. So, but yeah, so C+ for me, Mike, for the offense. I mean, again, that there has been some good plays and whatever, good standouts from certain players, whatever not, but injuries, schemes, certain plays that just didn't work out, whatever, and yeah, it's a C+ for me. But yeah, moving on to the defense. So I'll go first in this one, Mike.
Go on.
I'm going to give this a straight C on this one. So we had a terrible start.
Yeah.
Like a terrible start to the defense. I mean, we did pretty well against Cleveland. I will give them that. But the following games after that, like from week 2 all the way up to week 10, for those, we were terrible. We were terrible. Yeah, even though we beat Pittsburgh, but we were still terrible at defending. Right? In terms of the turning point after that, we got a lot better. Players were starting to finally understand the scheme, really starting to understand what Zimmer's going to go about. But my biggest issue is the fact that we didn't bring in Mike Zimmer sooner. I think that again is more of a criticism to the front office more than anything. So I think in that regard, I think if we were to bring Mike Zimmer sooner, get himself more established within the facilities, the players, really get to know them and see what they're made of so he can actually make a better assessment how to position his players, how to make the better play calls. I think we would have been in a much better position. And Zimmer even stated that himself.
Yeah, no, he did. Yeah.
He said it himself. He wished he did things a lot better, a lot sooner. So, but tell me, Mike, what have you graded this year's Dallas Cowboys defense?
Yes, it's a tale of two halves, like you said, but it also swung back the other way again. So, like, it starts off bad. We lose Micah, we lose Sam Williams before the season starts. Ron Bland, Tank. We've got issues of the inside defensive line, and linebacker as well. You know, that becomes an issue. But then you see the rise of DeMarvin Overshow, Leafu. You mentioned already
Josh Butler.
Yes, thank you. Name was on the tip of my tongue. You see him coming along. You see, you know, there are glimpses. Micah comes back, has an insane rest of the season.
Yeah.
The team ends up finishing, I believe, with the 4th most sacks on defense. But here's the trouble on the other side. They finished 4th last in rush yards allowed and 2nd last in points allowed.
Yeah, so there is still an issue there.
Yeah. So for me, it's still the run defense. It's still a problem. Rushing quarterbacks are still a problem for the Dallas Cowboys. Although
it's the same problem since Mike McCarthy came in. It's the same problems.
That's what it is. Yeah,
like
it's
we
the
can't
same
stop.
Yeah,
we can't stop the run. Like we're struggling to score in the red zone. That's the two main issues that we're having right now. That's the two biggest issues.
Yeah.
But hit me with your grade though, Mike.
I'm the same as you. C. It's a C. The only reason I can't go any lower is because of the fact of two things: is injuries, and the other one was the Tampa game.
Mm-hmm.
Though that you've seen what a defense when it's on form can do.
I will say as well, just to kind of give it a more justification as a positive, is the fact that the players that we did bring in, Carl Lawson and Eric Kendricks, guys that could easily fit the mold of what Zimmer's trying to propose, worked perfectly very well. That did work really well. But in terms of but in terms of the existing players that we had on our roster, didn't really make the transition as well as I hoped for early on. But it did eventually got there to the end.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like as things got on, it got better. But then you see the Eagles game that like the bow finally broke there. That was just like they could no longer sustain what they were trying to do. It was too much for all of them. And that was the end result, was what happened in the Eagles game.
Yeah. Okay, so finally, our last final grading for the 2024 Dallas Cowboys season. How do we grade the Dallas Cowboys special teams? So kickoff, punt return, and field goals and PATs.
A. And the only reason it's not an A+ is because Fossil made some objective calls of trying to make some trick plays. But you think Brandon Aubrey kicks for over a mile in a season, that's a record. There's nothing wrong with Brian Anger. He did exactly what he needed to do. Kevontae Turpin proved to be one of the most elite return specialists in the league. You've seen how kickoffs and punts suddenly changed against Turpin. They were trying to kick away from him. Or
don't forget One-Way Thomas as well. One-Way Thomas was a weapon in special teams.
Yeah, he did his moment. Then you see like CJ Goodwin as a gunner. I think he actually comes back, which is insane to say because he was really good. Ryan
Goodwin
Flournoy
was good.
Ryan Flournoy as a gunner was just as good. Everything on special teams was sound, apart from a couple of bad calls
and bad decisions from players.
Trick plays, yeah.
No, I wouldn't say trick plays where all they had to do is let the ball go off the field.
I know.
I'm talking about the Cincinnati game in particular.
Amani Warrior, yeah.
Yes.
I'm that stops it being an A+. Apart from that, everything else is fine. You get the Washington game where Aubrey misses one and has it blocked. But I think that was more Dan Quinn knew what he was up to in that game. And then, obviously, the Cowboys grew wise to Dan Quinn's, what he was trying to do there. But, apart from that, you can't say, Aubrey is an all-pro this year.
Yeah.
Kevontae Turpin's an all-pro this year. There you go. We had 3 all-pros this year. It was CeeDee Lamb, and then the other 2 were special teamers. That's all you need to say.
Yeah, that's that kind of stuff. And normally the all-pro selection really gives you a good justification why these players have been selected. And when you don't see any, not even Micah Parsons, because obviously injuries could be a factor, and also he was kind of absent for the first part of the season
for a couple of games. Yeah,
like so. That's an indicator to know why wasn't this player selected, why that player wasn't selected. It's because that's why, like. Reasons like injuries, not playing up to the best of their capability. Not even the great Zach Martin was nominated because he did have a bad season this year. And he's probably had the most consecutive Pro Bowls than any offensive lineman I've seen. I could be wrong in that statistic, but to my knowledge, he's probably had the most Pro Bowls in consecutive years as Zach Martin. So, but yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I am going to say an A. I was toying it between A- and A, but I will give them the benefit of doubt. I'm going to give them an A because there has been more positives than negatives, besides obviously the Cincinnati Bengals game and obviously the couple of because we know Brandon Aubrey is not perfect, but he is close to perfect. He's very close to it. So I'll give him that. And obviously Trent Zeg, which funny enough, I remember when I was on Cowboys Can Fan last year when we signed Zeg to a 2-year new contract, who's also now, which is now up for expired this year. It's we should be we were just laughing. That was the only contract signing we made in the off season last year. And he's been absolutely solid. He's been a fantastic long snapper for replacing LP for all these years. He's been fantastic. So, but yeah, I hope we do bring back Zeg, and I hope we do bring back Brian Agnew. I believe both of those guys are up for contract and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But before we do move on to what we can do to improve our Dallas Cowboys fan, I keep saying Cowboys fans. What the hell's wrong with me today? Cowboys team. We'll be back in one moment after these messages.
The World's Team Podcast is brought to you by Cowboys Experience. The ultimate Cowboys experience with stadium tours, meet and greets, tailgating, game tickets, and much more. For more information, please go to www.cowboysexperience.com.
Yeah, be sure to go and check out cowboysexperience.com and use the discount code WorldsTeam2024. We will get a new promo code ready from our sponsor once that's all up and running for next season. So for the time being, that is the current discount code. But yes, Mike, to the next point. What does Dallas need to do to improve for next time, for the next season?
First of all, I think that the first thing is they need to get these signings right. I think getting the likes of like DeMarvion Overshow. No, I'm
Micah
doing
Parsons.
it, mate. Yeah. Get that solidified. Get guys like Eric Kendricks signed up. And then let's make the Dallas Cowboys offensive and defensive line great again.
Yeah.
The trenches is where it's falling apart.
Yeah, I think
and get Mike McCarthy an offensive play caller.
Well, it really remains to see because we don't know if McCarthy is going to come back.
Well, yeah.
Like I don't know about you. Like I'm kind of short of options. Where who do we bring in instead? Because I know the fans' favorite would be Ben Johnson, who's unproven as a head coach. He's had a bit
like elk Jerry goes for.
No, it's something like you need to think what Jerry would do. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Jerry would probably maybe look towards someone that he's already had experience working with before, likely. And don't shoot the messenger, folks. Do not shoot the messenger. I think it could possibly be Kellen Moore. I really do. And that scares me to a certain degree. Like, don't get me wrong, he did have us as the number one offense at one point. He did, but he did make some play calls as an offensive coordinator were so questionable, and I mean very questionable. So, but whether he's happy staying in Philadelphia, by all means, he's doing. I mean, he's just taking over an offense and kind of working with it how he sees fit. But he didn't do a good job when he was at the LA Chargers under Justin Herbert. Did not do a good job there. But
same issues, predictability.
Yeah, predictability. And there has been some of that as well with the Eagles at some point as well. So I personally don't like the idea of Kellen Moore being used as part of the discussion. I don't like it. I would like to see the likes of a fresh face come into the fold and really try and change the dynamic of this football team if it's not Mike McCarthy continuing on. But we just have to wait it out and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is as well, is everyone keeps going, oh, it's Kellen Moore. Okay, let's say the Eagles get to the Super Bowl, right?
Oh, God.
I'm sorry. I know I'm swearing. Notice I didn't say win, okay? But let's say they get to the Super Bowl. You've got to think, like, what are you persuading Kellen Moore to leave for? He already knows the franchise. He already knows what he's going to be hamstrung by. And he's just made an offense play to an extremely high level and get to the big show. Like, do you think he's just going to up sticks and leave because of that?
Well, here's my debate for Kellen Moore, why he would stay at Philadelphia. He has a general manager is willing to help him as a coach by any means necessary, bringing in certain players, bringing in certain acquisitions, whatever he needs. We don't seem to be having that when it comes to Mike McCarthy, who I felt this year has been strung out to dry by the front office. I know it sounds harsh to say that, but when you look at how we've acted in the offseason, how we've acted in the draft, how we've acted in terms of trading away draft picks, etc., we have not helped Mike McCarthy one bit at all to help salvage anything this year. Not once.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with you
so,
there, mate.
so for likes of Kellen Moore, why would he want to come back to that environment again? I
That's what I'm
wouldn't.
saying. No.
So for me, it would have to be a drastic change. If I was Jerry Jones, I was like, okay, the dream scenario for me, Mike, is if I'm Jerry Jones, I would take a step back and would appoint an actual general manager that
There
has a
you go.
more
There you go.
clearer head of how to run a football team. Jerry can do all the media beyond Landmen on Paramount as much as he wants. Do whatever Netflix, but do not bring that negativity onto the actual football team.
I
Like,
don't see it though.
it's not going to happen. And even Jerry said that's not going to happen.
That is the greatest way to help this team, but it's just not like it doesn't even enter the fold for me anymore because I'm just like, it's just not going to happen. It's a great dream, but
we're literally the emoji going like that.
Yeah.
That's if you were to summarize the Dallas Cowboys in the state we're just like that.
And talking, mind you, Paul, of that, what are your predictions for the games this weekend?
Okay, so the games this weekend. So obviously we talked about Philadelphia. They're playing the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I would like Green Bay to cause the upset. The Eagles are the far favorites in this game. It's going to be a tough, but I think Philadelphia are going to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
It depends who they play in the next game. That will remain the big factor. I believe it's Tampa Bay and Washington is the other game. I think Tampa Bay should win that game. They should, based on the type of weapons they have. But Washington have surprised a lot of people this year, but the problem is they've had that little inconsistency themselves. They've made some big plays, but they've made some big boo-boos themselves. So it really depends what Washington Commanders team turns up. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think I've got Tampa on that one.
Yeah. Let me just get the rest of the actual schedule up.
Yeah, well, I got them. So you got Tampa Commanders. The other NFC game then is Vikings versus the Rams, which is
that one's probably the most clear cut to me. I have got the Vikings winning that convincingly.
Yeah,
the way and I will give Sam Darnold all his flowers and this season. A player that pretty much all forgotten about. He was pretty much a jobber in a way, where going from team to team after the Jets, being there as a backup, wasn't really having much success at Carolina. Well, no disrespect to Carolina Panthers, but the organization is in a more worse state than we are. They really are, in terms of how they operate their football team, and that's clearly on show. But for what Sam Darnold has done, taken over as the main quarterback, he wasn't supposed to be the main quarterback, but he's really made that his team now. It's going to be really tough decisions going forward. They might actually get some trade value from because obviously they might want to stick with JJ McCarthy, obviously, because they've invested them in the first round draft pick. But I'm thinking way too far ahead in that. I do apologize, but I think the Vikings will win convincingly against the Rams. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you. That the NFC I think is a bit more clear cut than what the AFC is, because like I'm looking at Chargers Texans and I'm like, okay, that's Chargers, but then I'm also sitting there going, oh, but wait.
That to me, that's a really split 50-50, that one.
Yeah.
For God, what's the head coach called again? Used to coach for the Niners. Michigan coach.
Yeah, I know. It's on the tip of my tongue.
His brother's
somebody is going to be screaming the name.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to Google it now. Chargers head coach. It's doing my head in. Jim Harbaugh. My God, how could I forget that? That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
For what Jim Harbaugh's done for turning the Chargers around. He's actually done a quite exceptional job for the first team round coming back to the NFL, like with very low, don't get me wrong, there was a bit of high expectation from the Chargers, but in terms of the rest of the NFL, we had very low expectations of where the Chargers were going to be. We would have thought they would have been mid-tier in terms of where we were, like being like an 8-9, a 9-8, among those type of scenarios. But they've managed to make the playoffs quite well. I think their record's 10-7, I believe.
Yes, I believe so.
Sorry, 11-6. Chargers
go.
it's the Texans are 10-7. I do apologize. So, but yeah, like CJ Stroud is not having the game that you would expect after having a fantastic rookie season. So I'm gonna slightly swing way to the Los Angeles Chargers in this game.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm pushing towards the Chargers. That they just got a lot more going for it. Like the next one, I think is a bit more obvious. This is the easy one, and then I think the next one we're going to disagree on. Steelers Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Ravens. I feel that they just got offensively too much going on. But what do you think on that one?
I think with everything on the line, it's a playoff game. It's a one and done. This could be one of the big upsets, I think.
Okay.
So I think the Steelers have every possibility to cause the upset here, but I am in agreement. Like in terms of who the favorites are, you would have to give it to the Ravens. But I'm just saying, do not be surprised if the Steelers cause an upset. Don't be surprised.
Well, this is probably where me and you are going to differ. I feel the next game is where the upset is. Broncos Bills.
No, I agree with you about this next game. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. There has to always be that in the wild card weekend, it always has to be that one team that completely upsets the apple cart. And I think it's this Broncos and Bills game.
Yeah, I agree. Like for what God, I am forgetting head coaches' names all day today. Sean Payton. There we go.
Sean Payton. Yeah.
Sean Payton has converted a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, and he had a really tough start to the season, but as the season's progressed, the Broncos have gotten a lot better. There's no doubt about that. Defensively and offensively, they have gotten better.
Yeah.
And I will say this, and as a lot of praise to Josh Allen this year. He has no 1,000-yard number one wide receiver. He has no 1,000-yard running back. He's basically playing with a lot of fringe players, and he is still making massive plays and still playing top-tier football. I will give him that. Yeah. But do I think Sean Payton might have the answer to this to stop the likes of Josh Allen? Very possible. But again, the favorites for this game is obviously the Bills.
Oh, yeah, by a long way. But
it's by a long way. But again, do not be surprised if the Broncos cause the big upset. It's not as clear-cut as you think it might be.
The two for me is I think this is the game that's the upset, and the Tampa and Commanders game is the one where I'm kind of like, ooh. Everything else I'm kind of feel confident on.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see this wildcard weekend. Just so you know as well, though, I've written our predictions down, and we'll see who.
Okay.
Yeah. I wrote them down, although like pretty much we're like the same on everything. So I could have just written down what they were. We literally are the same on everything. I thought maybe me and you would have difference in the Denver Bills game, but.
No. Like I did originally, but the more I looked into watching the more of the footage of the Broncos, how they performed the later part of this season, it's kind of put a little bit of doubt in my mind, and I'm like, they could actually cause the upset here. They could.
Yeah. That's how I.
They're definitely more than capable.
Yeah. But so there we go. Playoff weekend, mate.
Yeah, but before we do go, Mike, just get again any final thoughts about the Cowboys? Anything at all?
I'm just relieved it's done. That's all it is.
I think that's the main sentiment across all Cowboys Nation, where we can wake up from this nightmare that has been the 2024 Dallas Cowboys season. But yes, folks, from going forward all the way up to the NFL draft, me and Mike will be looking into potential prospects, breaking them down, and this is where this guy, this side, is basically like a kid at Christmas. It's all it's like Christmas Day all over again for him when it comes to. Yeah, so we're going to break down what does the Cowboys need to help improve this roster. We're going to break down everything, and while we're at it, we're going to have some special guests coming onto the show. So be sure and stay tuned for that, folks. But before we do go, Mike, please tell where everyone can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Kenfig Cowboy, Kenfig with a K, Cowboy with a K, and you, Mr. P.
You can find me at I am P Stu, and also you can check out our socials down below on Instagram at the.worlds.team, on X the_worlds_team, and on YouTube, as you're watching here right now, is at the Worlds Team. And same goes for Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But yes, folks, that is the end of this week's show. We will be back here next week. And as always here at the Worlds Team, it's not just America's team. It is the Worlds Team. And we'll see you guys next time. All the best.
You've been listening to the Worlds Team Podcast. There's no other team like it in the world. Nothing more electrifying than the Dallas Cowboys. And we're here to prove it. We bring in fan groups from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. We're everywhere, baby. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at the.worlds.team. On Twitter at the_worlds_team. And on YouTube at the Worlds Team. How about them Cowboys?
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
See you next time.